Hello, this is Daniel Van, the Daniel Van Gazette Pod on YouTube. Recently, I realized I need to change the name of my podcast handle, so I'm not sure what to call myself on YouTube. Outs- Outside of my given name. However, changing a little bit of the podcast that I think about it, and by the way, this is going to be on both YouTube and on Podomatic later on. When I tried to do this episode on YouTube, went about 2 or 3 times, and I could not seem to be able to download it. So I'm gonna. That's why I am re recording this, and I am gonna add it to YouTube as a single episode. Um, I was talking about I'm talking about WrestleMania 41, and I have to say that I actually enjoyed it. Um, I didn't want to look back at the a Peacock again. I just wanted to read what they wrote down so I can know what people that write about this for a living think about it. I will say though that I just think about this now. I'll be as quick as I can because I don't want to stay up too late. I will say this about the opening. Okay, let me just look at the um let's look at the results here really quickly. I'll say though, I thought Jey Uso versus Gunther was a great match, and the reason that was great was because what I think a lot of us did not expect Jey Uso to do was to use Gunther's moves against him. So I knew when he started doing that, I knew Gunther was in trouble. What I did not know was how Jay was going to use Gunther's sleeper hold against him. Although that made perfect sense because that's the maneuver he put on Jimmy Uso when he got Jey Uso so mad at him. So it made perfect sense. And yes, Podomatic does have a recording studio, but I like to transcribe the live videos into MP3, so that's why I'm doing this video right here. I have to say that the first night main event had a better ending, I find, than night two main event. But that's gonna all be, I'll tell you what, because it is 2 nights, I'll talk about just the night one, then I'll talk about night two later on. I think when you hit results, they should have. Okay, yeah. They have the Saturday results from WrestleMania 41. Let me do that real quick. Talk about the event scheduled for when it started. Didn't get to watch today's or yesterday's pre-show, but I'll watch that later on. The finish for the Raw Tag Team titles was good. They had the War Raiders. Um, I think it was Ivar who has hair. He was the one who got pinned by Xavier Woods, and Kofi Kingston held his foot down to make sure he wouldn't kick out. And they ran to the back, and that was even better because they sold that they stole the titles, weren't even hiding it. Jade Cargill versus Naomi by pinfall was was a good match, back and forth, which I like, but Naomi losing, I did not think that was the right choice. Not according to the story, but according to ability. So we know Jade Cargill, not only has she been in the business for about 2 years, if that long, but it just by her skill alone made it, it didn't look right for her to win as far as ability goes. But I do understand in the story why that was not a bad idea to have her win. Because how Naomi attacked her from the behind and all this other stuff that happened. So that all makes it all is a great reason why she won. Jade Cargill defeat. Okay, next match, which was also good, was for the U.S. Heavyweight title. Jacob Fatu defeating LA Knight by pinfall. The reason it was good was because you really didn't know what to think except, well, how is LA Knight going to win? Although his maneuver is perfect because he could hit it on anybody. But because Jacob Fatu has been built up as being like the next Monster Hill, that's why this made perfect sense. So him winning the U.S. title is good first title to go to because it's the only single title that they really have. So I'd said in a previous video that I believe that I can't download, so I'm gonna say it now. I think he and all the other mid card champions and even the top champions like the Raw Tag Team Champions, the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the the women's Intercontinental, the women's US champion, and the men's Intercontinental champion should all go on NXT so that can so it would be more like they're equal with Raw and SmackDown. So that I think they should do with the titles going forward. Now, what I'm really curious about is their draft for Raw and SmackDown this year. That's what I'm really curious about. Next match is El Grande Americano going against Rey Fenix. And what I honestly believe about that match is when El Grande Americano took a piece of metal, put it in his mask. He turned he turned the mask sideways, or at least made it look like he turned it sideways. And I believe that because he turned it sideways, when when Ray Phoenix went to kick him in the mask in real life, he didn't really hurt his foot. And when he hit the diving headbutt from the top rope, I believe in the story that was supposed to knock out Ray Phoenix, and that's why he won the match. But what I was most amazed at in this entire match was how he did two he did two flips for a moonsault, and that was amazing because we're used to seeing it forward, not backwards. So to do like a four, almost like a backward 450 into a moonsault is amazing. And the women's championship match for Raw, Tiffany Stratton defending against Charlotte Flair, like Jey Uso challenged Gunther earlier in the night. So I like how they used the Royal Rumble winners going for their championship matches in the on the same night. I like that. Um, what I didn't like about this match was the ending. You know, they were one could not really get an advantage over the other until when Tiffany Stratton hit the PME as she calls it, prettiest moonsault ever, which it's not any more beautiful than the best moonsault ever, to be honest with you. Um, but when that happened, I didn't understand why they went with that finish when it would have looked better in my mind, looking at it as a fan. They should have booked her to cheat because that actually would have looked better because would have caused a controversy. But this is more confusing than anything because she, even though she did work on Charlotte's leg, was injured. She didn't do enough to really make it look like all it took was a moonsault. That's why I didn't like that finish. But I'm realizing as I'm reading it and as I'm remembering what I watch, I'm realizing I can read the results of night two. Also, what I liked about the main event between Rollins, Reigns, and Punk was the more intense it got, the more, and the closer it came to the ending, the more we didn't know what Heyman was going to do, but we knew Heyman was going to stab one of them in the back. What I was surprised at was he stabbed both men in the back to a degree. But what was a bigger surprise to me was how he added Seth Rollins as the latest Paul Heyman guy in his managerial service. So to his managerial service. So that was more of a surprise because I didn't think they would go that way. But it's interesting to see that. To be honest, no matter how good some people may think Rollins is, there's still a lot about his character that's hard to really understand. What does it mean to be the visionary or the revolutionary? What does that really mean? So I do think he does need a manager like Paul Heyman. So I like that. Because I didn't see the full kickoff show. I don't know if okay. I don't know if there was any matches in night two of the kickoff show. I don't know if there's any matches that I was not expecting. So that's why I want to read the rest of the results here. Now, I know that a few people saw at least one of my earlier live streams, and the reason I re-recorded it is because I can download it to audio. And when I did the last live stream, I forgot about the women's tag team title match. That's another reason I re-recorded this. So let's see. Alright. So okay, now that I got this on here, let's see. Okay, it the looks like there were no looks like there were no kickoff show matches. So let's talk about a triple threat match for the women's title to start off the show. I have to say, this is making me think of Jazz defending the women's title WrestleMania 18 against Stratus and Lita. Back then, as as many of y'all most likely remember, the idea of having women main event WrestleMania was not heard of, and back then I think that was even a shame by those standards. By those days' standards, that was really a shame because they were really bringing women's wrestling back into focus. So looking back at it, I think back then that should have been at least a semi-main event. So when I think about this match, I just think about how great the storytelling was in the build-up to the match, and the entire psychology of the match goes without saying that Io was disrespected not just by the competitors, not just by her opponents, but by a lot of the audience, a lot of the fans themselves. The focus so much more on Ripley and Belair that they kind of forgot how Io Sky is the genius of the sky. Just talk about being the genius of the sky. That was the biggest part that ended up helping her in the end. And it looked like she's gonna go for some kind of big maneuver off the top rope. She was pulled back by Rhea, put her forehead into the steel post. And Rhea Ripley was given the KOD by Bianca Belair. And we thought, or at least some fans thought, probably thought, that's going to be the end. So I said, as I was looking at the TV, I said, let's not forget about Io at the top. And that's when she hit the top rope moonsault and won the match. So that not only was climactic, not anticlimactic, but climactic because it was the perfect finish to the story they were telling. So that I give that match 5 stars. The Fatal Four Way. No, first of all, the Sin City Street fight between McIntyre and Damian Priest, where McIntyre won by pinfall after hitting. He made it look like he was trying to hit, like he was trying to put the chair again and put it around Damian Priest's neck, but in this angle is more like he just hit chair against Damian Priest's face, and that's what led with the Claymore, and that's what led to his victory. That was much better than early on in the match when he tried to run at him, and it could have if he had went through with it instead of got caught by Priest, it could have really hurt his neck. So I'm glad they did it. Glad they ended up doing it the way they did it. And they went back and forth for the rest of the match. After that South of Heaven, I think they said South of Heaven, I'm not sure. Clothesline? No, choke slam. And then, because they set up the tables, Priest was thrown through the tables, pushed through the tables by McIntyre counter his to counter Priest's version of the Undertaker's tightrope walk, where he comes down with almost like I guess we could call it one axe handle over the shoulder blade or the rotator cuff of his opponent. Got pushed by McIntyre to stop that attempt, and he went straight through the tables. They got set up. It hit his face against the steel chair with the Claymore kick, and that's how he won the match. So I would say that was a good match too. Was it anything I could disagree with? Then the Fatal Four Way Intercontinental Championship match. When they added Mysterio and Dominic to this match, I knew somebody was going to turn babyface. And I had a feeling it was Dominic because Finn Balor has not acted, he has not changed in any way, shape, or form in the way he carries himself. But Dominic, the fans have been a little bit more sympathetic towards him. So when he won the title, which was not really a surprise, I was expecting a new Intercontinental Champion because it's 4 men. However, because Dominic took the shirt he always has hanging behind his pants, he took that off and he threw it down, so it made it look like that it looked like it was symbolizing that he was going on his own. That's why tomorrow night's Raw is going to be so interesting. Then he ran back in the ring to celebrate his title victory. But what caused the title victory was really interesting. He got up on the top rope and he was stopped by Finn Balor. Finn Balor, I think, assumed he would leave it alone. So he went for the coup de grace on Braun Breaker. He probably was not counting on Dominic Mysterio hitting the frog splash, which he did, onto Finn Balor, and then he pinned Finn Balor to win the title. So I think that's going to lead to him coming out and saying he's no longer with the group anymore. Judgment Day, that is. The Judgment Day group. And that's interesting in itself. How long has he been with the group? And now it's time to go on his own, it looks like. That's even more interesting. Hmm. So, next match is an open challenge match that Randy Orton issued to anybody. See, he wanted a match because this was his 20th anniversary of his first WrestleMania match. So, Joe Hendry from TNA showed up, and he's the TNA Heavyweight Champion. And this is a first because even though they have a working relationship with TNA, by the way, you would not, even though they had, like, for instance, Mickey James come at Royal Rumble for the women's Royal Rumble match, you would not expect somebody from TNA to come at a WrestleMania because that's unusual. However, I'm glad he did show up because it did show the importance of them not only doing cross promotion with TNA, but it shows how doing cross promotion with any company is a good idea, which is like treating it like a territory again. I don't know this, but I didn't even need to record on YouTube tonight because every podcast from Podomatic has YouTube podcast on it. So I'm gonna delete this account from Podomatic. I'm gonna create a new account for Podomatic with my YouTube channel. Okay. Makes it interesting in itself. Good. So it may have lasted about 5 minutes at the most. Finish came and Randy Orton was hit the with Fallaway slam by Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry got a little too overconfident, and all he was doing was smiling instead of going on the attack, and it was the biggest mistake he could make because it left an opening for the RKO. So, sure enough, he was hit with the RKO, lost the match. He shook hands with Randy Orton, but Randy Orton, being the Predator, like they call him, and the Viper, as they call him, he turned him around. He gave him the RKO anyway, which I know that was just to fill up space. Then they brought out Steve Austin to let everybody know what the official attendance record was for night two. I don't really remember the attendance record for both nights at the moment, but it sounded like a lot. And the next match is Logan Paul and AJ Styles. This was the only match that Logan Paul won where he didn't have to use brass knucks. I'd have to say that the match was actually very good because he actually understands how to wrestle. Logan Paul does. He's not just a fan, but he understands. I think he understands the psychology of it. And when you're a boxer like he was, at least in his case, I don't know about everybody's case, but in his case, I think he understood the psychology of wrestling where that's why he's so good. The finish came when Logan Paul's friend came out with a pair of brass knucks, but he got stopped by Karrion Kross. Karrion Kross, instead of throwing down the brass knucks, he encouraged Styles to use the brass knucks. Styles hit him with the brass knucks, threw down the brass knucks, and he got in there, and that's when Logan Paul rebounded and hit him with his new finisher and won the match. So I'd say that for continuity that was great, but I would have preferred seeing AJ Styles win because I think it would have I think he deserved it more than Logan Paul. But I guess you could say that's why we call it wrestling, because not only is it back and forth, but you don't. What makes it the entertainment aspect of it comes when you can add parts that you do not agree with that in regular sports would be considered taboo, and you get away with it. So I think that's why we call this entertainment in the first place. And I know that's definitely why we call it predetermined. In the next match, it was for the women's tag team titles. They did a injury angle with Bayley Saturday before WrestleMania started, so Lyra Valkyria had to find a new tag team partner. It's because I believe she is from Ireland, and she went against Becky Lynch a few years ago for the NXT title. And because of that, they brought in Becky Lynch on screen as her partner, and they won the titles. What I thought was good was how this is the first time they team up, and they worked very well together. What I liked was the classic tag team strategy of cutting the ring in half by Rodriguez and Liv Morgan. What I liked was how it was a perfect sequence in the match. How Lyra managed to keep Raquel out of the ring, and that's how Becky Lynch hit her new finisher, which is like a female version of the Rock Bottom, called the Manhandle Slam, and that's when they won the titles. So I've always been a tag team fan, so that's why I get excited when I see tag team titles be defended like that. Main event. The only thing that was really disappointing to me was how John Cena being. We know that he understands psychology to a degree, but what he showed was how people were right about him. All these years when people spoke about, no, criticized him, what he did in this one match showed he could have done that his entire career, but he didn't. So I just wondered to myself, did he do that because he's supposed to be a villain, or did he do that because they told him to do that? Because they are more flexible with their creativity today. So I don't know if they told him to do that or if he chose to do that. So that would be another thing that would be interesting to find out. However, when they knocked out the referee by having Rhodes push John Cena into the referee, which I believe is Chad Patton, when he fell down, I just fast forward through it because I knew there's no way Cody's gonna win this because not only is he on the good side, but he's acting like he's on the good side. So I knew he had to lose. And sure enough, not only did he lose, but John Cena got help, although it didn't help him very much. But that guy helped. This guy coming in helping him, which could have been a rapper for all we know, or for all I know anyway. When he came, when I saw how he was getting hit by Cody Rhodes, I said, well, the obvious right there is going to lose. Then he held the title, Cena did. The only thing wrong with that was Michael Cole saying it's no longer disputable that he's the greatest of all time, but it's disputed more than ever if you know how many title reigns Ric Flair really had as opposed to what he's been billed as. WWE can bill him as 16-time world champion, but he held the title twice in the WWE. His title and then their title. So that in itself was more than what John Cena did. And then he had 9 more title reigns that they don't even mention. So he is not the greatest of all time. Ric Flair still has 8 more reigns to beat him. So being that this is his last year, that means it's still disputable. However, let's see in the future if anybody can beat John Cena's record. Hope y'all enjoy this, and I hope hope y'all don't mind me talking about the results instead of looking back at it, but I just think this is the best way to do it right now. Thank you, and oh, by the way, I will be talking about classic pay-per-views in the future, but at the moment, I don't really know what to talk about outside of um, the classic Mid-Atlantic, so I'm gonna continue talking about Mid-Atlantic, and I'm sorry for not talking about that more. But we'll also talk about Raw and SmackDown, also in TNA and AEW too. So fill up that time too. Thank you and goodbye.